DeFi for real-world assets, where banking, crypto, and asset data meet. With Patrick D. O'Meara, Invenium Capital Partners.
Thank you. It's good to be with all of you. As it just set up on the screen, my name is Patrick O'Meara. I'm with Invenium, and we're focused on the trading of real-world assets digitally. And when you're trading an asset that there is no entropy, meaning Bitcoin or Ethereum, one Bitcoin today is one Bitcoin tomorrow. But as you know, when you're trading any asset that has entropy, meaning the state of the asset, the condition of the asset directly affects the value of the asset, which directly affects that digital instrument that you're trading, you need to understand the state of the asset, and you need to be able to then understand the state of the data in order to determine the value of that digital instrument that you're seeking to trade. And that's what Invenium is focused on, and we want to talk a little bit about that. And we want to talk about private market data transformed, because the solution for price discovery of private assets that are going to be trading digitally is not one giant database or one massive data lake, but rather in a decentralized economy where you have private assets, you need to have a private or a distributed data economy. What does that mean? That means that when a private asset owner has data about the condition or the state of their building, that data in the fullness of time, when it's accessed, needs to be trusted, it needs to be interoperable, and they need to be the ones to determine when that data is observable. And that's what Invenium is creating, the ability to do that. And this is something that facilitates a process of evergreen data around an asset, right? And so what I want to do is talk for a minute about what that means. So what we do is, rather than have any data in the Invenium system, what we do is we're a thin data layer on an asset's data systems. So think of a skyscraper here in Dubai. There are a number of data systems that it uses. What we do is we credential that data at its place of rest. What we do is we run a SHA-256, create a hash. We then we index that data, who's the author, where does it come from, all of that good information. If it's unstructured data, we structure it, and then we relate it to other pieces of data. What we then do is anchor that into the payload of a block. Public blockchains like Ethereum, Tezos, it can be on R3, it can be on Quorum, it can be on Hyperledger, or a quantum ledger with a single node like Amazon's quantum ledger. Why does this matter? This is a mechanism to timestamp data that we then create a data room, and that data room has in it no data but just a directory of all the data about that asset. Because if you want to trade that asset, eventually you want to buy it, you need to know what that data is. But by moving the data, you change it. So what we're doing is we're creating a data room with pointers, not to a single data room, but to the place of rest of where that data is. And for a big office building, that might be 11, 12, 20 data systems. So there's pointers to the data, it's a directory, pointers to the data, the way to ensure the data hasn't been altered, role-based access control, and then very basic robotic process automation. So on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, it's collecting the most up-to-date data on that building, monthly financials, maintenance records, elevator usage, key fob data, that we can then push to people like Cushman & Wakefield, JLL, CBRE, ValueStrat, people here in the region as well as global players who can put a mark, an independent third mark on that asset. It's called the US PAP compliant mark. That means that a public company can use it as a mark in their books. It's FARIA compliant, meaning a bank can lend against that, but also with all the inputs observable and a complex model and in-period comps, what are we doing? We're taking illiquid assets, data-rich illiquid assets like real estate, private equity, infrastructure assets, or private credit assets, and what we're doing is we're meeting all the criteria to move that asset from a level 3, according to ASC 820, IFRS 13, FASB 157, from level 3 illiquid to level 2 marketable alternative. What does that mean? Anybody who has a regulated balance sheet, we've just provided enormous capital relief. Or if you're a private company, we've given you marks on your books so you don't carry it at the tax basis, cost minus accumulated depreciation, but you're actually carrying it at book value. That's a huge pop. So any corporation from Disney to Walmart to JP Morgan Chase, this is something that releases capital for them, right? Does that make sense? We're providing price discovery on this asset by giving continuous up-to-date marks on that asset. So what are we doing? We're literally collecting the data on the asset, we're fielding it, we're validating it, pushing it into tool sets so that you can trade a digital asset. What we're doing is, most people talk about the token to the trader, right? With AML, KYC, where people who own these assets want to understand them. What Invenium is focused on is from the asset to the token. How do you know the condition of the asset that that token represents? And so what we're doing is we're standing at that location where private markets, capital markets, and DeFi wants to work here. And you say, well, how does DeFi fit in? Right now, when you are a depositor at a bank, your yield is a little bit of a cut of everybody who's lent money from that bank, right? From home loans to rail cars, right? If you want to get more specific, what do? You buy CMBS, commercial mortgage-backed securities, where literally what's in that CMBS? Whatever's in that trust, even though you might buy a tranche of IO or PO or some maturity, you have exposure to that tranche. When we can tokenize an asset, we're going to literally stick those into bank-sponsored DAOs, and we get a third party like Cushman & Wakefield to value the gross asset value of the asset, the building. We get a fund administrator like an Apex or a State Street to value the capital stack. And then you're going to be able to actually say, I want only exposure to this building or that building, or even more importantly, robo-advisors where you can say, I won't only want assets of this type. And what we're doing is we're providing the data and the trust in data so that you can use it in private market assets trading digitally. And so what we're really doing is, here we go, credentialing the private data at its source. So we provide a proof of state of that asset where we can take internal documents like a financial statement, we can tag it with the authors, we can pull data from it, we credential that, and then we can provide the proof of value. So then we take audited financial statements, we can credential that on chain, we then kind of make that high functioning, we pull that out, we can tag it with all sorts of information, we can relate it to other assets around it, we can tag that, and then we can get other comparables around that asset, and we tag each of those. We can push that data into Argus, we can create a price on it, that price we can push into a workflow, that workflow can have a human look over a task and say, yep, that's the right price, we can credential that price, and then we can also start to credential capital events. What does this mean? We literally can start proving the value that's being pushed through investment calculation, capital call, and distribution. When that happens, not only do you know the data's verified, but we can begin moving distribution of funds on-chain or off-chain at your choice, at your discretion. At any rate, where all the capital events are recorded. So I think that's the end of my time, and I appreciate this, and thank you so much.